All right, what's up, y'all? This is Tam Burke with Rebel Hearts Rising, and I have an amazing guest here today that I'm really excited to share with you guys. Do you ever just meet someone and immediately you're like, whoa, wait a second, what's going on? And there's just this palpable kind of unspoken energy between the two of you. And then you start to have conversations, and there's just so much alignment in the experience. That's exactly how I felt when I met Renee. It was this really kind of palpable draw. And then, not just that, we did a podcast episode the other day together, and we decided to dig into the deep stuff, which, is one of my favorite things to do here on Rebel Hearts Rising. And within that, I found out that Renee went through a very similar trauma of mine. And when that happens, it's like, whoa, wait a second, without ever having to talk about it. And we're going to dive into the details today. I know so much about this woman. And that is where I find that grief is like a club that you never want to be invited to. And yet, once you're in it, it is an unspoken language that you have with people. So I'm really excited because Renee is such a badass. Not only has she really moved through and alchemized this experience that happened to her, but she's brought more depth into her life, her client's life, and you can just feel it in the way that she moves through the world. So Renee, first of all, for my audience, those people who don't know you, can you tell us a little bit about what you do now? And then do you want to kind of leak into the experience that kind of cracked you open?
Yeah, absolutely. Tam, thank you so much for such a beautiful introduction. And I agree. Like sometimes people are just placed in your life. And I'll never forget the first voice note you sent me. You're like, when the universe like gives us little winks and, like these like things. And that's what I felt like with you. Like through every conversation, voice note we sent back, I was like, oh my gosh, more of a connection point. This is so beautiful. So I'm so happy that it evolved into us sharing and connecting with our stories on here. And that's exactly what I want to do with the audience today. And whoever's listening is just, I want them to feel really connected. And yeah, just like getting to that like deeper rooted why of everything, right? So a little bit about me is I was in the beauty industry for 20 years. I was in the salon since I was 16 years old, and it was kind of like my backup job because I wanted to be I wanted to be a singer and an actress. And I didn't want to go to college. And my parents are like, well, don't put all your eggs in one basket, get a backup. So I was like, oh, I'll go to cosmetology school. I like doing hair, whatever. So I did that thing. And my backup became actually the thing that I pursued the most. So I did go to college for like acting and, I did sing and write some songs and do some things. But I was like, oh, this hair thing, this is like kind of like the easier path. I'm going to go ahead and do this. So then from that, I started doing a lot of bridal hair. And from that, so many people were asking me, like, how do you style hair so effortlessly and beautifully? And I'm like, oh, I'm going to teach this. So fast forward, I have taught in over 14 states all over the US. I have a global online academy and have been teaching for over 10 years now in the beauty industry. And last year is when I made the transition to actually cultivate other leaders and aspiring educators in the beauty industry. So I started teaching them how to become educators and business coaches in the beauty industry, which was so fun. And my heart felt so alive with this. But this past year has honestly been, let's say the past 2 years has been a huge evolution because not only did I pass the baton to them and say, here, you guys go be the educators now. I'm not going to be teaching hair anymore. But I also realized so much about myself and I evolved massively this past year. And some of the things that were brought to surface were the things that I didn't want to take with me moving forward and just to live more freely and alive. And when I brought those things to surface, it was calling me to just break through the box that I kind of built for myself being in the beauty industry for so long. So I totally shifted identities this year and I busted out of the beauty industry. Not to say that I still can't help beauty business owners, but I am now just opening it up for other iconic women who have a heart-led mission and vision, who want to create it into a business or who have a business and want to scale it from alignment and truth and just feeling good about, having their business again. Because So oftentimes we can be in the state of burnout or doing more. And I'm really about getting to your center and your truth and what feels good to you. So that has been the evolution in a nutshell.
Do you want to tell us about the experience that you had and how did that play into the transition? Because
Oh,
something that I
yeah.
experienced too was I owned a yoga studio. It was my passion, right? Very similar to you. Like it was my life, it was everything. And then I had already kind of had the feeling that I wanted to transition out. My partner and I were already having like behind the scene conversations. And when I lost my friend, it like sped things up. It was like, life is short. I can't do this anymore. I need to be true to myself. It was almost like the ripcord got pulled on the parachute. And I was like, I need to change things very quickly and very drastically because life is short. And so I'm wondering, did you have an experience like that? Was it something very different for you?
Yeah, so I truly believe that we are awakened by these things that we experience in our life. Tragedy usually is the first thing to wake us up, right? So I experienced my tragedy back in 2018. It was June of 2018 where I lost my brother Brian due to suicide. That moment was life shattering and eye opening. And it made me just look at myself and be like, am I truly living like my life? Am I truly doing everything that just feels good to me and living in my full expression? Because he did leave us a note, which was just such beautiful closure. And in it, he said something along the lines of he just felt like he didn't fit in with the world. And I thought, what if he only saw what was so magnetic and incredible about him? He had the most infectious laugh, most infectious smile. He was always like doing little funny skits and stuff and just like such a light, such a light. And ironically, he had a lighthouse tattooed on him and Carpe Diem on his chest. And I said, how fucking ironic is this? Well, I'm going to now teach others Carpe Diem, seize the day and live into your most ambitious, wild, freeing, fulfilled life. And my superpower is truly seeing maybe the things that you overlook and don't see that are your superpowers within your own unique abilities and your genius and just the things about you where to someone else would be like, oh my, what? She does that? Like how do you do that? And when for you, it's like, oh my God, this just comes easy to me, right? And I said, I am going to make sure the legacy that I live out and my heart led vision now is to make sure that others are living to their full, truest potential, being honest with themselves and loving themselves because you truly have to love and embody yourself to be a heart led leader. That's what a heart led leader is. You are so in love with yourself that you can exude this love onto others. And it's like just this like beautiful thing, this beautiful ripple effect. So losing him, it inspired me to do my work with more meaning. And that's when I made a huge massive change in my career where I said, you know what? The things that don't feel good, I'm not going to do them anymore. I'm not going to work behind the chair anymore doing cuts and colors. I'm not going to be working weddings anymore. What lights me up is to teach others how to style bridal hair. So I'm going to do that. And that's what changed the trajectory of everything. And that's where all the things aligned and I got the brand deals and magazine features and I've traveled and had beautiful, wonderful experiences because I went all in and I shifted my identity to the identity of I'm not settling for anything less than what my heart is being called to. So that is the root of everything. And it's so crazy how like something has to happen to like wake us up. So whoever's listening to this right now, like please don't wait for something horrible to happen to start living. Like, start doing it today. Start really, truly doing what you want in your life and business today. Because when you hold back, that's when you stop yourself from truly living every single day in your life. And it's not worth it. It's not worth it to do that.
So beautiful to see. And something that I talk a lot about is the law of polarity, which is that to the equal degree that something, I'm using air quotes, bad happens, dark, challenging, um, that same kind of light, greatness, depth comes into people. And something that I haven't talked a lot about publicly, but I've explored a lot in my own personal life is around suicide because death has a signature. And one of the beautiful things about death is that it is impermanence. I'm reading a vampire book right now, and as you may know, vampires live forever pretty much, right? And there's some spiritual concepts that say when we live forever, at some point that was something that we did, and then as a collective, we decided to put a timestamp on it. Do you know how I really feel this, Renee? Dog is God spelled backwards for a reason, and they only live like 8 to 16 years, because the shortness of it is what makes it so sweet, is because it's finite. And so you appreciate that time with them even more. And what can be so interesting about suicide is suicide has a couple different categories. And so to watch the gifts that you cultivated from that experience, right? If you think about what Renee just said and you feel into the energy of, she lost someone who didn't see their own spark. And from that, one of her superpowers became seeing everybody else's spark, to become a sacred mirror to the people around her so that she could reflect their light back to them. And that is like rebel heart rising queen status. You know what I'm saying? Is because why I created this podcast, and the message of it here is like, we often have to grow through shit in order to find our brightness. And I'm curious around if this is a superpower that you felt like you had before your brother's passing, or it got really solidified in the desire to help people see themselves in the way that maybe your brother was missing.
Yeah, it's such a wonderful question. And the answer is it made me reflect inwardly, right? And when you reflect inwardly, you start to like pick up like all the little whispers and like, I call them like the puzzle pieces of your life, right? Like the breadcrumbs of your life that just all come together and you're like, oh my God, this has always been it. And it was kind of more of like the wake up call of like, this has always been it. Like, this is why you have been this way all of your life. This is why you've been in bad relationships, got taken advantage of, were a people pleaser, all these things, were intuitive, all these things, because you truly see the gifts and the things that others maybe overlook or don't see. And I said, this is wild. Like, it was there all along. So when you are like woken up to this, right? It's like, and then you start like reflecting back, it all starts to like make sense. So to answer your question is, it was always there. I just never truly saw it myself. So how ironic is that, right? It's like, I didn't see it, but then I was woken up to seeing it in myself. And it's like, but this is the whole point, right? It's like others always see. When you're like looking at yourself, it's like you don't see that greatness until it's like reflected back to you, right? Until like you get the positive words from other people, or people are like, how did you do what? How are you so comfortable with being uncomfortable and making all these shifts and changes in your life and your business and moving to new states and doing this and that? Like, how do you do that? And I'm just like, it just comes natural to me. Like, I didn't know it was a big deal, So that's just what's so funny about it, is it was always there. I just didn't see it as my superpower, because also before I was looking at it as it was something bad because I didn't have enough growth and evolvement to have the energetic boundaries. I didn't have that self-worth instilled yet. But now that I do, I'm like, this is where it's amplified, because I know my power. I know my strengths. I know how to, set the boundaries, and I know who is deserving of my gifts, and whoever's not, I'm okay with setting the boundaries of, you're not allowed here. So that's why I had to wait until aka now, to really truly anchor into this and like see this about me. Because I think if I would have known it before, I wouldn't have had all of the life experiences for me to be like, wait a minute, like this is why I had to go through an 8-year-long relationship with a narcissist who was emotionally abusive. Like, this is why I had to lose my brother, right? This is why I had to, burn my business down and grow it back up again to go through the things. This is why I hired the team of 3 and then I had to fire one, and then they all left. And then I found it, like all of the things, right? You start to look back at all the things and be like, this is why I went through it, to become a better version of myself, to become a better leader. So yeah, it's just amazing when you look back.
Something that I said something that you said that I love is, it was always there, but you just didn't recognize it. And in my world with intuition and energetics, we talk about this a lot, because it's not like something shifts and all of a sudden you have all of these gifts. It's like, actually, all of these things are happening all the time. We're just not tuned or trained to pay attention to the subtle nuances. And I think that's also why I really believe that trauma can be turned into power, pain can be moved and alchemized into passion, is because it helps us see things at such a finite level that we didn't have the ability to see before. And so I can say all of the spiritual stuff, and secretly I'm like, please don't let anything else happen. I've been a good girl, you know? Like, it's like we don't want more trials and tribulations. And I also think that's why I really love training intuition, is because something that I believe is this concept around higher choices, that we have the ability to kind of move through our own intuitive alchemy. We can move through lessons faster when we're paying attention. And so I think that's also what happens, is as we experience more and more trauma, what ends up happening for us is that we start to pick up on things faster. We start to see the breadcrumbs quicker. We start to see the signals. And so I'm curious for you, especially for those who are listening who might be currently going through hardship, or especially for the future. How often does someone say something and you don't actually store it? And then in future space, your intuition's like, remember when Renee said. And so what message might you have for people who are like going through the shit? What are some things that you did to help you move through such an intense emotional experience?
Such a fabulous question. So I just rode the wave of that momentum after, right? So I was just like, oh my God, this feels so good. I'm just gonna like keep going. And like, I just kept going. Like, I didn't care like anything else. That was like, nope, nope, no. I was like, nope, I'm doing it. I'm doing it. Like, no matter what, because I knew what the outcome was going to be, because I've done it before in my life. And if I have my eye on the prize and the thing that I want to do, I know it's going to happen for me, and it's going to happen for me with the bumpy road, or it's going to happen like faster and quicker, but I just know it was going to happen. And I want to fast forward to like one of my most current evolutions, which was this past year, where I evolved, like total shifted identities out of, the beauty industry. And it was funny when you just said, like, when you like hear something, but you don't really hear it, but then months later or years later, or whatever, you hear it and you're like, oh, wait a minute. Now I actually hear it. So one of the things I do is, or started doing about 2 years ago now, is journaling. And I started journaling things that would come up where it like came back, and I'm like, oh, they said this. Oh my God, I get it now. Like, and I literally, I want to like almost like grab my notebook really quick and just tell you what those like exact phrases, like they were like phrases that people said. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this makes so much sense, right? Like, okay, I just flashed back to one. I was hosting can you hear me okay? Okay. I was hosting my first retreat last year. And at the time, I was texting my friend back and forth. She is like, she knows what she's doing when it comes to retreats. She's hosted some in Bali, whatever. So I was starting to like feel like, oh my gosh, this is my first one. Like, I don't think I know what I'm doing, but I'm doing it anyway. And she texted me in the conversation, remember who you are and never, what did she say? Remember who you are and never like, never like discount yourself in my presence again, or something like powerful, right? That, right? I like also thought of the Lion King, because I'm like, remember who you are. Some like went to Disney really quick, but I just remembered her saying that, and I'm like, oh my God, this is like a year later. I'm thinking about it. I'm like, I thought I was a badass, like hosting my first retreat and like doing this, but really on the inside, I still had some like doubts and fears, and I wasn't truly anchored into my full power or belief in myself. So if you are going through something right now, I want you to like really reflect on maybe conversations that you've had with people where it like, you're just like, wait a second, that's something that someone said that has always stuck with me, and see if you like are hearing it differently now. But you have to first reflect upon those times, right? So you have to like go there, right? So if you journal, like look back in your journal, right? Like look back in text, look back, and then also I love to ask people. So I had asked my my operations business manager at the time and one of my coaches, I go, what do you see as my greatest gifts? Because this was a time where I was like growing and evolving, and I'm like, what's my genius? What is it, right? Especially transferring out of like teaching hair to like teaching business and all of that, right? So business and mindset and energetics, all of it. And so they told me, and I was like, okay, that makes so much sense. That is actually it, right? So sometimes we just need like that confirmation. So if you are going through something right now, just know that like something so beautiful is going to come out of it. And like, even if you're just gonna like think of an analogy for a minute, like I love watching my rose bush bloom every year because it takes a long time. And I'm like, see all of that, like, that time that it takes for it to like really get nourished and get enough sun and wait for the right like temperatures and things for it to happen, and then it just like blooms. It's like that's exactly what happens to us, right? Like we have to like grow through the things, be in certain environments, and then we come out on the other side. And just to like look back in your life at the things that you maybe did go through where you discredited yourself, and give yourself some credit and be like, I've gone through hard times before. Like this time is no different. So that's like a huge confidence boost when you do look back and see how far you have came from before. That's a big one.
I love that you're essentially talking about hindsight, which is one of the number one intuitive practices I have for people is looking in the past for evidence and then bringing it into the future, into the moment that you're in having confidence like, oh, okay, my intuition has spoken to me before. I have heard this. I have seen this. And so the same thing that you're talking about applies to grief, which is that we've all been through hard things. And whether it's like, light, I'm using air quotes, nothing is that light and everything's light, but like getting bullied in second grade comparatively to being an adult, right? You're like, oh, that wasn't that hard. But in the moment it was gutting, right? And it shaped who you are and how you express and the way that you are with people. And something else that I love, you're just so intuitive, Renee, is I worked with a Peruvian shaman, and one of the things that they talked about was when you go through deep grief, they actually recommend sleeping with a rose every night because roses are actually big healers of grief. And so, how interesting, and this is another kind of expression of how intuition works, right? Like we could easily just be like, oh, yeah, she mentioned that in coincidence or in passing. And it's like, no, Renee's intuition knew that roses are something that's actually important to bring into this medicine right now. And even the pause of you guys visualizing while she was talking about like how roses are growing. And roses of themselves are so beautiful because they have all different shapes and sizes and colors, but also I have rose bushes too. They hurt. You trim them every year. Like even if I wear
Yeah.
gloves, I have pokes. And it's like, it's just such a powerful visualization to be with around roses.
Wow. I love synchronicities like so much. And there's been like actually so many the past couple of days. Like I had one when I was talking to someone on the podcast yesterday about like my tattoo that means like the serenity prayer. And like right now, when you were just saying about the roses, I just had a flashback to like my brother's tattoos, right? Like I told you, he had the Carpe Diem, he had the lighthouse, he had roses as well on him. And I'm like the significance, right? Like I love like putting florals in my hairstyles. I have roses right here next to me in my, in my office. And it's just so, it's like right there in front of your face, right? Like it's there. So that was just a beautiful thing that I just realized as you were talking about that. And thank you for sharing that bit with me because I didn't know. I didn't know about that.
I didn't know that either. I think that's why it's so important to train with lots of different people is I had done some Kauai shamanism training, didn't know about roses, right? I've trained with intuitives and healers here in the US, never brought it up, and it's like, but maybe they knew those things, but I hadn't yet been through such deep grief that it invited their knowledge into it. And so that's why it's like often I find people will continue in my world because as I grow and evolve, as I go through new hardship and high levels and low levels and the whole experience of life, who I am and what I bring to the table really changes. And I think it's cool that we're able to witness this within you, right? Like it was hair, and then it was hair education, and then it was business development. And it's also like behind, for those of you who aren't watching, I can kind of see it. It says like icon it, claim it, own it, master it. Everything that Renee's been talking about, the subtle energies under that is identity work, self-image. How you see yourself, who you believe yourself to be, sets the entire tone for your life. So, do you want to talk to us about that a little bit, since it is like
Yes.
literally behind you?
Oh my God, I love it. Okay, so the iconic woman, like I said, is like the pure essence of her. It is like you, like being whole. And when you are whole as a leader, like that is when you give that massive impact and can pour into others, right? So the iconic woman. All right, so actually, I'm going to explain this to you through I just had a very powerful branding shoot that I just did, because with the identity shift, we had to change up the office, my decor, everything, because it was tied to my old identity. I actually gave away all of my hair stuff, like passed it on to this young, ambitious girl who was just so excited. She like took some of my hair courses. I'm like, here, girl, take all my stuff. And it just felt so good to like have this new space. And with this new space, I needed a new brand shoot. So in the brand shoot, I made sure that I had like multiple different outfits to wear, right? And I realized this was after I chose the outfits, after the shoot was done, and I'm going through all of the things, all the photos. I'm like, oh my God, like I'm so multidimensional, and that's like the beauty of me, right? So I like, okay, so there's like one of me like in like a sexy business suit, right? Like with my red bold lip on. Then there's one of me in like my Spanx like jumpsuit, and I'm just sitting on my porch swing with my crystals and writing in my journal. And then there's one with me in this like sparkly sequins dress where I'm putting lipstick on in the mirror or like toasting a glass of champagne. And there's another one where like I'm walking barefoot on the beach in like my linen wear and like just so free, like with like my flowy dress. And it's like, but that's all of me. And whereas before, I feel like and many of us, like we do this, right? Where we have to identify ourselves and put ourselves like in the box of like, oh, I'm, I'm preppy, or I'm boho, or I'm this or that, like whatever, right? I'm like, no, I'm all of these things. I'm all these things, right? And in my business, same thing. I'm like, I teach, I'm going to be teaching somatics. I'm going to be teaching you business strategy. I'm going to be teaching you like all these things. And it's like, I can, right? Giving yourself the permission, I can. So it's like, you can be all these things as the iconic woman, right? It's like you don't have to fit into this box where society tells you, oh, to fit in, you must be in this box and then you attract your people. It's like, no, I'm going to be all these things. And then I even thought about my husband. Like I met my soulmate husband after the bad relationship. And it was so funny. I was actually replying back to a client in an email, and he's like, he's sitting next to me on the couch. Well, now it's my husband, and I was dating him at the time, and he's like, I know a Jen Gomez or whatever her name was. I'm like, oh. He's like, yeah, I work with the Jen Gomez. Is that the same one? It was, right? So she's my client. So at her bridal trial, I was like, so what was Jimmy looking for? Like because he was ready to be like single. He was in bad 9-year relationship too. And he was ready to be single. He was ready. He got, actually his PT license to work in Hawaii and like work abroad, and in comes me. And, yeah, he stayed. That's why we're still in the US. But just, so I asked her, I go, what was he calling in and whatever? And she goes, well, he was looking for someone who was like sweet and had a good heart that would like treat him good and be like just as kind as he is, but also someone who had like a little edge and like was like feisty and fun. And I was like, and she's like, that's you. And I'm like, see, it's like I could be soft spoken and I could be loud and magnetic and like on stages like singing, and it's like that's the beauty of it, right? So it's like, if you're feeling like, ooh, I have to like put myself in a certain box to be liked or accepted, you get to be whatever you want. Like that's the beauty of it. Like that's you. So that is the message I want to share today, is like you can be this multi-dimensional person or being. It's accepted. And when you accept that about yourself and you're not putting any restrictions on yourself, that's when you're your most like purest version of you.
I love that. It reminds me of I'm studying a spiritual text right now, and they were talking about there's like a certain cut in time as of the 1990s, more consciousness is being put in each person. And then in the 2000s, more consciousness is being put in each person. And when I meditated with my guides and I asked, like, what does this mean? To me, it explained some of what's going on with the sexuality and the trans movement is that when you have high levels of consciousness, you no longer need to identify with one thing. And so that's why we're seeing a wave of younger people being less and less identified with how they label themselves, how they dress, how they orient sexually, just in general. And when I first read that, I was like, wait, but I'm born like just at 1990. What do you mean? I don't have as much consciousness. Consciousness is something that can be cultivated, breath work, meditation, deep conversations, the way that we develop ourselves. And so actually, doesn't it make sense that the more that you developed yourself, the more that you broke out of this single identity, let's call it like the hairdresser, the more that you kind of realize that you have all of these different aspects of self, you freed yourself. And also what happens is we have these ideas of like what success looks like or what success has looked like before us. And so we hold on to these single identities or we think we need to be a certain way. And a lot of what you were just talking about, Renee, is like the expansion of self and how we don't want to label anymore. And so it sounds like the iconic woman. And this is what I love about working with other business owners is I'm like, do you guys realize like how much energetics and strategy and like the undercurrent of what's happening is all intuitive. It's all energetic. It's this expansion of who you are being. And so it's really cool to witness that the iconic woman is about becoming more of yourself, becoming more conscious, becoming more true, becoming more aligned. And so I love the way that you dance the story of, also what our partners love about us too. I asked my partner recently, like, what's one of your favorite things about me? And he's like, that you are a child, like true to form. You like love unicorns. You have this childlike awe, like when you're happy about something, you're like a kid on Christmas. And he's like, and I can always tell when you're off balance, when you get like structured and rigid. And so it's so interesting because in our heads, we have this idea like, oh, I need to be a certain way and I need to act a certain way. And then actually we ask people like, what do you admire about me? Or what do you love about me? For those of you who are listening, I highly recommend this homework assignment. A long time ago, I had a coach tell me, ask 5 people what are 10 things that they love about you. They can be quick little adjectives. They can be attributes. It doesn't matter, but just cultivate it. And you'll start to see like patterns and trends. And what I also found too was when I did this exercise, I chameleoned with a lot of people. I was a certain person with one person and slightly different with another. And through this reflection of people back to me, I got to see more of my essence, more of who I am at my core with everybody, rather than the different ways that I dial myself up to be. And so it's interesting also when we ask our partners this, because they get to see all parts of us, right? They live with us, long-term partnership, roommate status. You're going to annoy people. And so it's really cool to see how the people who love you most, who are around you most, experience you. Have you ever done an exercise like that?
Absolutely. This is something I take my clients through. So one thing that I have them do is I'm like, do you understand like how valuable you are to your clients? Like, you'll get client testimonials and maybe not like actually see them like for what they are. I'm like, go through your client testimonials, like ask them for this feedback, right? And see what they say. Like, so same thing, like the people that are closest to you, right? Like your family members, your friends, and all of that. I do have them do this exercise because, like I said before, it's like so often we don't see what they see. And when it's like brought to surface, it's so cool and fun. And then it's like, oh, it was there all along. It's just I didn't see it from that angle, So I love that so much.
It's also interesting. I once asked a friend, and she described me in a way that I was totally surprised about, and nobody else saw me that way. And something that I really love, a friend, Malia, who's a wonderful breath worker, she was talking to me about the moon is a reflection of the sun. Like, think about that for a second. The moon that we see is a reflection of the sun, yet it is its entirely own separate thing. And so often reflections of us are also based off of other people and their experiences and how they experience the world too. And so it can be really powerful to take in other people's reflections. And it's a great reminder of who it's coming from. Because I always say, like, even the best psychics go to other psychics. We all have blind spots, right? And it can be really hard to see those things. But sometimes when we ask people to view us, we're getting their reflection. And so it's important that we don't hold on too tightly to anything because it also doesn't encapsulate the fullness of us. And yet we're not able to see it either. And so part of it is living in the mystery of who we are, how we show up. And I find that more of it is about how we feel about ourselves, how we feel about our certain actions and attributes. So I want to come back to, what is one thing that you might offer somebody who feels like they want to branch out and become a more iconic woman? They want to have more identities. They want to open up their perception of themselves to invite in these other aspects and ways of being that might be gently lingering or simmering just below the surface, but haven't fully bloomed.
Okay. So I like to call this, I'm just going to make it up right now. Actually, don't call it anything, but we're going to call it like the removal process of like what is not it. Right? So you're going to get so clear about what it is without any fears attached, without knowing how you're going to make the money, without anyone in your ear being like, you can't do that. That goal's too big. Or what are you talking about? You're going to change the world. Like, get it all out. Like, be in a space where you can like take a couple deep breaths and just like really write out, or get ChatGPT, whatever you want to do. Write out like exactly what your heart is calling you to do. Okay. Now, I had one of my clients do this, and she was feeling so drawn to help other moms through postpartum because that was a time where it was so tough for her. She felt so alone. And so she created a movement out of this thing that was calling her heart. Now, mind you, she's a bridal stylist. She works behind the chair, but this bigger calling, right? She was being drawn to. So this was the first thing I had her do, is like, what's actually calling you? What lights you up to talk about? Well, self-care for mamas, like, and creating a space and community for moms, right? It's like, this is beautiful. I was like, this is it, right? Like, this is it. So she calls it her peace project, which I think is just so beautiful. And so it's getting so clear on the thing that lights you up with no external noise, no external noise. And then from that, like, that is the fuel to your fire, right? Like, and when you have that, when that spark is ignited and you're like, oh my God, this is it. And like, then the ideas just keep snowballing of making it happen, right? But first you need that initial like spark and thing that you know is there without you getting inundated by noise. And the way I like to do this is through breath work, through somatics, through like really channeling and listening to yourself and realizing, what are my actual beliefs and what beliefs have been placed upon me, right? So this was another huge pivotal moment in my life this past year in December, where I was removing the things that were not, right? I'm like, nope, I'm not going to believe this thing that this person said. Nope, I'm not going to have these offers anymore. Nope, we're going to do this, right? Breaking the boxes, all the things. There was a moment that I reflected back on where I had my first ever business coach in 2021, and he was very masculine, and I'm like, oh, I'm the feminine stylist over here, and like, I don't know anything about finances or masculine strategies, like, teach me, right? So I'll never forget, I was telling him about a bridal business mentorship program I wanted to put together. My heart and soul was poured into it. It was after I lost my brother. I wanted to create this like community space. It was like a beautiful thing. And I told him how much I wanted to like infuse like mindset into it, because I'm like, I truly believe you have to be a different being to be like a leader and a business owner, all this, right? And he's like, you can't teach mindset. You have to be certified. But I believed it. And I'll never forget. I was like taking a walk on a beautiful day, and I was pushing my daughter in the stroller, and I just like stopped, like, because I had my AirPods in, I was just listening, and I was like, oh, I felt crushed. I was like, okay. He's like, people want to learn like business and like strategy and like how you built your bridal business and all this stuff. And I'm like, okay. Meanwhile, the little whisper in me was like, you built it off feminine energy. You built it with your magnetism. You built it with creating connections with others. Like, That's how you built it. You didn't even have a legitimate contract for your brides to sign. You had like a thing drawn up in a Google Doc that they like they printed out and signed. Like it was just silly, right? So I said, okay. So then after that, that was like a scar that I didn't realize that was there. That was like a belief that I had carried with me for a long time, that people want to learn the business stuff, the tactical things. And then that rolls over into another thing where I was a part of this coaching program for coaches. And again, it's like the strategies that I was then doing that didn't feel good. They felt really heavy. And I'm like, this is not me. All of that was removed. All of that has been removed since September of this past year. And it was in that moment where I realized, after having a conversation with my friend, I was like, oh my God, I've believed that I had to teach it this way, right? When my magic is here. It's in the mindset. It's in, allowing people to connect with themselves through somatics, through, mindset work and energetics and all of that. I was like, that's it. Like, I need to bring this back in. So that's what I would do, is just like realize, like, what is your North Star vision? What is your heart calling you to do? Remove everything that is not, and that is your fire. Think about like the most successful scientists, like artists, like anyone in the world that like has had massive success. Like I love 10x is easier than 2x books so much, right? So like Michelangelo, and like he was creating the statue of the David, and it's like that's all he was doing for years. And it's like it was anything but he was not interested in, and that's why it was a masterpiece, right? So it's like, think about your life is your masterpiece, right? So it's like, why would you want to do anything that would take you away from that? Because again, that's not living. You getting taken away from yourself is not truly living. So yeah, I hope that answered your question. There were lots of layers upon it, but that's what I would take someone through.
It totally answered my question. And I also feel like you almost need to add a phrase to your sign up there, which is clear it. Because what you're talking about in my world, we call it our frequency field. Yogis might call it aura. In the quantum, we call it your biofield. And there are thoughts and stories and beliefs that sit in our frequency field. And whatever sits in our frequency field is what we attract. And so often clients will come to me and there are things that they don't like about their life. And it's like, well, the universal law of reflections, that's in you, that's on your field. That's why you're attracting it, right? And so the root of what you're talking about is getting really clear about what do you love. I've heard this phrased as like, what can you not shut up about? Like, what is a topic that comes up again and again and again with your friends, almost so the people closest with you are kind of rolling their eyes. They're like, here we go. She's about to talk about meditation and intuition again, And sending your energetic awareness to that while you clear everything else out so that you have the bandwidth to really dive deep in that. I love that. And I think it is so much of what I've seen in the personal development world is about being more, and often it's about actually peeling back all of the layers of existence around self. And so I really love that you brought that up. So, okay, I'm gonna end with one final question, and then also if you want to tail end with that, like where can people find you if they want to learn more? What has been one of the most pivotal self practices that you've included into your life that has made a big difference? And why did that thing help you so much?
Great question. So, hello, I'm a recovering high achiever over here. Still high achieving, but not at the cost of burnout. Okay. And one of the things that I did this past year, it happened in September, was I took my first like breathwork session. And my friend Kayla hosted it. And afterwards, I was like, oh, I just saw my 18-year-old self. Like, what was that? And it was like connected to a time where I just felt so free. Like, I remember like standing by the piano as my vocal instructor was playing a song and I was singing Mariah Carey, and like I just like felt so like in my element, and I just love music so much. And I realized in that moment that I had shut off a lot of my intuition because I'd been hurt. I had stopped listening to music And because I was like so inundated with so much noise, like between like my 3 kids, 2 dogs, the business noise, like all the things, all the different strategies, things you could do trying to grow my business. I was like, where's there time for music, right? And I was like, oh my God, I need to come back to myself. So I would say integrating breath work and somatics into your life is literally life changing. I'm actually getting certified in somatics and breath work this year. I just started my somatics certification because it's something that I'm infusing into my current program, because this is the missing link and the thing that will give you this long lasting embodied change for the rest of your life versus surface level, like, changes and shifts you might make and then revert back to your old self. Like, this is the thing that allows you to see, okay, what do I need to keep peeling back to become more of me? And yeah, that has been such a wonderful practice. And also documenting everything. I write down like breakthroughs that I have from those sessions. Moments where I have like certain downloads or realizations. Like, it's so important to document it, because I actually just read through my journal the other day and I was like, wow, this is so powerful. Like, these are stories that I could share with others. These are things that I could look back on and be like, holy shit, look at your growth, Renee. So yeah, I would say definitely get in on that breath work and somatics if you haven't tried that, and definitely journal.
I love those three things. My partner was trained in breath work, I think in 2020, and then I studied after him. And breath work has been like, because we have psychedelic work, we have spiritual work, and everything that bridges it all together is breath work. And one of the things that I find to be the most powerful about what you're talking about, breath work, somatics, and journaling, is once you learn, it's free. And so you're actually giving power back to people. It's not that you need to come to me. It is always nice to have someone hold space for you. But if someone's not available, once you learn breathwork techniques, you have them forever. And you can go into deeper and deeper layers of yourself simply by accessing something that's happening all the time. But when we pay attention and have intention to the way that we're breathing, things change. So, where can people find you?
Thank you for asking this question. So you can find me on Instagram at XO Renee Marie. I'm sure you'll have it in the description below as well. And we are on the journey now on unlocking the doors to Heart-Led Business Academy. And this is where we're going to infuse all this juiciness that we talked about today about amplifying and unlocking your genius and your gifts, and so that you can really truly anchor in to yourself and your pure essence as a leader. And it doesn't matter where you're at in your life or your business or your journey. This is something we all need to come back to, because this is a world with so much inundation and noise. And this is where you truly come home to yourself, so that you're able to unlock that next level in your life and your business and just live whole and fulfilled. So it's an 8-week program that I have running. And like I said, I'm going to be integrating some somatics because I'm getting certified in that. And that is going to, I know, be a game changer thing for unlocking those doors into your inner self, so that everything in your external world can change as well. So that is, yeah, what's happening. Thanks for asking, Tam.
Absolutely. It was amazing to have you on the podcast. And as you guys know, with Rebel Hearts Rising, like, I'd love to chat with you about the aha moments that you have, and the way that this podcast affects you. And if you feel like you really got seen, like you've been through something traumatic, or you're going through something traumatic right now, and you hear us say like, oh, it's amazing on the other side, and you want to punch us in our teeth, we felt that too, right? Like, always remembering that it's the hindsight. If you walk away with one thing, something that we really talked about today is it's always to see clarity after it's happened. So DM both of us. We love to chat. And then send this to a friend who might be in a transition of their life, who might be in a place where they're looking to discover something like breathwork or journaling, and understanding that they can become the iconic woman by changing the way that they identify and see themselves. Thanks, y'all. I'll talk with you guys soon.